Goodness doesn't guarantee success. In fact, it often guarantees failure. The honest employee gets passed over for promotion, while the office politician climbs the ladder. The ethical businessman loses contracts to competitors who bribe and lie. The principled leader is overthrown by the ruthless manipulator who promised everything but delivered nothing. History is a graveyard of good intentions. Jesus was crucified. Socrates was forced to drink poison. Lincoln was assassinated. Gandhi was shot. Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered. Meanwhile, the liars, the killers, the schemers, they die old, rich, and surrounded by monuments to their glory. This isn't pessimism. This is pattern recognition. And 500 years ago, a Florentine diplomat named Niccolo Machiavelli wrote it all down. Not to celebrate evil, but to explain why the world works the way it does. What you're about to hear will disturb you because it's true. Let's be clear about something. Machiavelli wasn't a villain. He was a realist. He didn't invent the rules of power, he observed them. He watched princes rise and fall. He saw republics collapse and tyrants thrive. And he asked the question nobody wanted to answer. Why do good rulers lose and bad rulers win? His answer destroyed Western philosophy's comfortable fairy tale. The fairy tale that said virtue would triumph, that goodness would be rewarded, that justice would prevail. Machiavelli looked at that fairy tale and said, no, that's not how power works. Power doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about your ethics. It doesn't care if you're kind, fair, or honest. Power cares about one thing: effectiveness. And effectiveness often requires doing things that good people refuse to do. This is where morality and survival collide, where the ideal meets the real, and the real always wins. Because in a world where others play by different rules, your goodness becomes your weakness. Your honesty becomes your vulnerability. Your mercy becomes your downfall. Machiavelli didn't celebrate this. He warned about it. The question is, are you listening? Machiavelli gave us several principles that explain why the ruthless succeed where the righteous fail. These aren't moral guidelines. They're observations about human nature and power dynamics. Law 1. People admire goodness but follow strength. Machiavelli wrote, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand, for everyone can see but few can feel." Translation: people respond to what appears powerful, not what is actually good. The good leader makes rational arguments. The powerful leader makes people feel something: fear, hope, belonging, excitement. The good person relies on merit. The powerful person controls perception. Look at any election, any corporate battle, any social movement. The winner isn't the most qualified, it's the most commanding, the one who projects strength, certainty, and inevitability. Good people think competence speaks for itself. It doesn't, because most people can't evaluate competence. They can only evaluate confidence. And ruthless people understand this instinctively. Law 2. It is better to be feared than loved. Machiavelli's most infamous line, and the most misunderstood. He didn't say you should be cruel. He said that if you must choose between being feared and being loved, fear is safer. Why? Because love is conditional. Love is fickle. Love disappears when times get hard, when better options appear, when it becomes inconvenient. But fear is reliable. Fear is consistent. Fear doesn't depend on mood or circumstance. The good person builds relationships on trust and affection. Beautiful, noble, and completely vulnerable to betrayal. The powerful person builds relationships on mutual interest and respect backed by consequences. Less romantic, but far more durable. Good people think fear is tyranny, but fear isn't always about violence. It's about predictable consequences. It's about people knowing you'll actually follow through. The good boss who never fires anyone, they lose respect. The fair boss who will fire you if you betray the team, they gain loyalty. Fear isn't the opposite of love. It's the foundation of sustainable relationships, because people need to know there are limits. Good people hate enforcing limits. Powerful people understand that boundaries without consequences aren't boundaries at all. Law 3. Appear virtuous, act strategically. Here's where Machiavelli becomes truly dark and truly brilliant. He said, It is unnecessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them. The successful person must look honest, merciful, faithful, and kind, but they must be ready to act oppositely when necessary. Why? Because the world is full of predators. If you're genuinely, consistently, predictably good, you become prey. The ruthless person understands this instinctively. They perform virtue publicly while operating strategically privately. They give to charity at the gala while destroying competitors in the boardroom. They speak about ethics while exploiting every loophole. This isn't hypocrisy, it's survival. Because if you're genuinely good in a world full of performers, you lose. The audience can't tell the difference between real virtue and performed virtue, so the performer wins every time. This is the game good people refuse to see, and it costs them everything. Law 4. The world is full of predators. Prey gets eaten. Machiavelli wrote, "Any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good." Read that again. He didn't say most people are evil. He said most people are not good. Not actively malicious, just not principled when it conflicts with their interests. And among those people, the genuinely good person is not admired. They're exploited. The honest businessman gets outmaneuvered by competitors who lie about their capabilities. The principled politician gets destroyed by opponents who spread false rumors. The kind person gets used by narcissists who see empathy as weakness. This is the fundamental Machiavellian insight. In a mixed population of good and bad actors, the purely good actor loses, because they fight with honor against people who fight to win. Let's get specific. Why do good people consistently lose? What psychological patterns doom them? 1. The obsession with fairness. Good people believe the universe is fair, that merit matters, that justice prevails eventually. This belief is their greatest weakness. Because the universe isn't fair, merit doesn't matter nearly as much as positioning. And justice doesn't prevail. Power does. Good people waste energy complaining about unfairness instead of adapting to reality. They expect the world to reward their goodness, and when it doesn't, they become bitter instead of strategic. Powerful people don't believe in fairness. They believe in leverage. They understand that life is a competition where the rules favor those who understand them. While good people are appealing to fairness, bad people are winning. 2. The fear of conflict. Good people avoid conflict. They think it's noble. It's not. It's cowardice disguised as virtue. They don't want to be seen as aggressive, mean, or difficult, so they compromise. They accommodate. They give ground. And every time they do, they signal weakness. Ruthless people love conflict, not because they're aggressive by nature, but because they understand that conflict is where power gets redistributed. The person willing to fight usually wins against the person desperate to keep the peace. Because the peacemaker will surrender almost anything to avoid confrontation. This is why good people get exploited in negotiations, in relationships, in careers. They'd rather lose than fight, and so they lose. Again and again. 3. Naive honesty. Good people tell the truth, always, even when it hurts them. They think honesty is a virtue. It is, but it's also a weapon others use against you. Tell people your weaknesses and they'll exploit them. Tell them your plans and they'll sabotage them. Tell them your fears and they'll use them for leverage. Powerful people understand that honesty is contextual. You tell the truth when it serves you. You withhold it when it doesn't. You shape it when necessary. This isn't lying, it's discretion. But good people can't distinguish between lying and strategic silence. So they volunteer information that destroys them. They confess mistakes that would never be discovered. They admit doubts that undermine their authority. They share vulnerabilities that become targets. And they wonder why ruthless people succeed while they fail. 4. Attachment to reputation. Good people care desperately about their reputation. They need to be seen as moral, ethical, and good. This makes them controllable. Because when someone cares about their reputation above all else, you can manipulate them through social pressure. Threatening to call them mean, selfish, or problematic, and they'll surrender. Ruthless people care about their reputation too, but strategically. They cultivate the reputation that serves their goals. If being seen as ruthless serves them, they accept it. If being seen as compassionate serves them, they perform it. Good people are slaves to one reputation: good. And that slavery makes them predictable and exploitable. 5. Assuming others think like them. This is the fatal error. Good people project their values onto others. They think everyone values honesty, so they're honest. They think everyone respects fairness, so they're fair. They think everyone wants mutual benefit, so they seek win-win solutions. And then they're shocked when someone lies, cheats, or backstabs them. I would never do that, they say. Exactly, you wouldn't. But they would, and they did. Powerful people understand psychological diversity. They know that not everyone shares their values, so they adapt their strategy to who they're dealing with. Good people use the same strategy with everyone: goodness. And against good people, it works. Against bad people, it fails catastrophically. 6. Emotional morality instead of strategic morality. Good people make moral decisions based on how they feel. Does this feel right? Does this feel fair? Does this feel kind? Powerful people make moral decisions based on outcomes. What will this produce? What are the second-order effects? What are the trade-offs? Good people save the drowning person without asking if there's a riptide. Powerful people assess whether they can save the person without drowning themselves. Good people think this is cold. It's not. It's responsible. Because good intentions without strategic thinking produce disasters. The well-meaning intervention that makes things worse. The generous loan that enables destruction. The second chance that leads to repeated harm. Good people feel good about their choices. Powerful people get good results from their choices, and in the long run, results matter more than feelings. Now the other side. What do ruthless people understand that good people don't? 1. They weaponize perception. Bad people understand that reality and perception are different, and perception matters more. They craft their image carefully. They control narratives. They manage how others see them. The corrupt politician who does photo ops with children. The exploitative CEO who gives inspirational speeches about values. The abusive partner who's charming in public. They're not stupid enough to be openly evil. They understand that looking good is more important than being good. Good people think substance matters more than image. They're wrong. In a world where most people can't evaluate substance, image is everything. 2. They don't hesitate in decisive moments. When opportunity appears, ruthless people strike. Immediately. Without moral deliberation, good people hesitate. They consider ethics. They worry about fairness. They think about how it looks, and while they're thinking, the moment passes. Someone else takes it. Machiavelli wrote, "He who hesitates is lost." Not because action is always right, but because in competitive environments, speed beats perfection. The ruthless person makes the call, closes the deal, and seizes the position. The good person is still weighing whether it's ethical. By the time good people decide to act, bad people already own the outcome. 3. They understand group psychology. Ruthless people know how groups work, how to build coalitions, how to isolate enemies, how to make allies dependent on them. Good people think group dynamics are about fairness and merit. Bad people know they're about power and loyalty. The ruthless person doesn't wait to be chosen. They build the coalition that chooses them. They don't hope for fairness. They create the conditions that favor them. They understand that groups don't reward goodness. They reward whoever controls the narrative, manages the relationships, and delivers results. 4. They use fear, incentives, and alliances strategically. Powerful people have a toolkit. They can be charming or terrifying, generous or withholding, loyal or ruthless. They adapt their approach to the situation and the person. With some people, they use fear. With others, they use reward. With others still, they build a genuine partnership. Good people use one tool: goodness. They're kind to everyone, fair to everyone, honest with everyone. This makes them predictable, and predictable people lose to adaptive people. 5. They adapt quickly. Good people stay rigid. When circumstances change, ruthless people change with them. The principle they championed yesterday? Abandon today if it doesn't serve them. The ally they supported last month? Betrayed this month if they're now a liability. Good people call this unprincipled. Powerful people call it survival, because rigidity is death in changing environments. The person who can't adapt gets swept away by those who can. Good people are loyal to their principles, even when their principles are destroying them. Bad people are loyal to winning. Here's the most important thing Machiavelli understood. Society is built on a lie. The lie is this: we reward virtue. The truth is this: we reward power and then retroactively call it virtue. Society publicly rewards virtue but secretly rewards power. Every culture claims to value honesty, kindness, fairness, and integrity. We give awards for these qualities. We tell children to embody them. But watch what actually gets rewarded. Who rises? Who wins? Who accumulates wealth, influence, and status? Not the most honest, the most strategic, not the most kind, the most effective, not the most fair, the most powerful. We applaud virtue in speeches. We reward ruthlessness in practice. This is the game that good people don't understand. They take the speeches seriously, they believe the myth, and they lose to people who see through it. Good people follow rules. Powerful people write them. The rules exist to control the majority. The powerful understand this and position themselves outside the rules, or they rewrite them. Tax loopholes aren't for ordinary people. They're for the people who can afford lawyers who exploit them. Regulations don't constrain the powerful. They constrain their competitors while the powerful find workarounds. Good people follow rules even when the rules are destroying them, because they believe in the system. Powerful people understand the system exists to serve power, so they either rise above it or reshape it. The system punishes innocence and glorifies efficiency. The naive person gets scammed, the trusting person gets betrayed, the honest person gets exploited, and society doesn't protect them. It calls them stupid. You should have known better. That's what you get for being naive. Meanwhile, the scammer, the betrayer, the exploiter, if they're successful enough, they're called savvy, strategic, a winner. The system doesn't punish successful predators, it punishes unsuccessful prey. This is Machiavellian reality, and it will never change. Because power determines morality, not the other way around. So, what do you do? If you want to remain good but not be destroyed, what's the path? This is where philosophy meets practice, where morality meets survival. 1. Stop being naive. First, wake up. The world is not fair. People are not fundamentally good. Your goodness will not protect you. This doesn't mean becoming cynical. It means becoming realistic. Trust but verify. Be kind but observe behavior. Give second chances but not third ones. Naivety is not innocence, it's ignorance. And ignorance in a dangerous world gets you killed. 2. Learn strategic silence. Not everything needs to be said. Not every truth needs to be shared. Not every thought needs to be expressed. Powerful people understand discretion. They know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to reveal and when to conceal. You don't owe anyone complete transparency. You don't have to confess every doubt, share every plan, or reveal every weakness. Strategic silence isn't lying, it's wisdom. 3. Master image management. How you're perceived matters. Like it or not, your reputation is a tool, or a weapon others use against you. So manage it, intentionally, strategically. This doesn't mean being fake. It means understanding that people judge you on limited information, and you can influence what information they have. Be seen doing good things. Control the narrative about yourself. Don't let others define you. 4. Understand power games. Without becoming a monster, study power. Learn how it works. Understand the game. But you don't have to become what you study. You can understand manipulation without being manipulative. You can recognize exploitation without becoming exploitative. Knowledge of darkness doesn't make you dark. It makes you less vulnerable to it. The good person who understands power can navigate it without being corrupted by it. The good person who refuses to understand power gets destroyed by it. 5. Be kind, but never vulnerable. Kindness is not weakness, but kindness without boundaries is. Be generous, but not to people who exploit generosity. Be forgiving, but not to people who see forgiveness as permission. Be trusting, but not to people who've proven untrustworthy. Kind and stupid are not the same thing. You can be both good and discerning. 6. Be honest, but selectively. Honesty is a virtue, not a suicide pact. Tell the truth to people who deserve it. Withhold it from people who will weaponize it. This isn't deception, it's discretion. And it's the difference between integrity and stupidity. 7. Protect yourself before saving others. You cannot help anyone if you're destroyed. You cannot lift others if you're drowning. Good people sacrifice themselves trying to save everyone. And then they're gone, and so is their capacity to do good. Powerful people secure their own position first. Then they use that position to help others. It's not selfish, it's strategic morality. Because sustainable goodness requires survival. Let me bring this to the cold, hard conclusion. Machiavelli's ultimate truth was this: the world is not shaped by the good, it is shaped by the bold. History is not written by the most virtuous, it's written by the most effective, the people who understood power and wielded it. The good people, they're footnotes, casualties, martyrs. They're the ones who tried and failed, who stood by their principles while ruthless people shaped reality. You can be angry about this. You should be angry about this. But anger without adaptation is just noise. The world doesn't care about your moral superiority. It cares about what you build, what you change, and what you accomplish. And to accomplish anything meaningful, you need power. Not for power's sake, but because powerless goodness is invisible goodness. The good person with no power can't stop injustice, can't protect the vulnerable, can't create change. They can only watch and complain while powerful people, good or bad, shape the world. So the question isn't, should good people seek power? The question is, can you afford not to? Because every time a good person refuses to engage with power, they leave a vacuum. And that vacuum gets filled by someone who will use power without your scruples. Machiavelli didn't tell you to abandon goodness. He told you to make goodness effective. Be strategic about your virtue. Be ruthless about protecting what's right. Be willing to fight in the arena where power is contested. Because the alternative isn't noble, it's extinction. The good person who refuses to learn power loses to the bad person who masters it. Every single time. And when that happens, goodness doesn't triumph. It just dies quietly while the ruthless inherit everything. You have a choice right now. You can reject this, call it cynical, call it dark. Go back to believing that virtue alone is enough, and you'll be exploited, outmaneuvered, defeated by people who understand what you refuse to learn. Or you can accept the reality Machiavelli exposed, that power exists, that it operates by certain laws, that those laws don't care about your morals, and that the only way to make goodness prevail is to give it teeth. This is the path. Be good, but be dangerous. Be kind, but be strategic. Be honest, but be wise. Don't become the monster, but don't be the fool the monster devours. Learn the game. Play it better than those without principles. Win not despite your goodness, but because you made your goodness powerful. Machiavelli wasn't teaching you to be evil. He was teaching you to survive long enough to be effectively good. The world is dark, but you don't fight darkness by being weak and pure. You fight it by being strong and principled. That's the lesson. Now, what are you going to do with it?